We don't take poor people to high-end places. You're staying home. The words sliced through the air sharp and cold, as Kate, my daughter-in-law, adjusted her earrings in the hallway mirror. I stood frozen in the entryway, my apron still tied around my waist, the scent of the dinner I'd been preparing lingering faintly. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Kate looked radiant in her wine-colored dress, perfectly poised. Beside her, my son Michael adjusted his tie, his gaze fixed on his reflection, completely avoiding mine. It was Friday night. They were meticulously preparing for what I believed was a big family dinner at the city's most exclusive steakhouse, a celebration we had supposedly been planning for weeks. But in that moment, as my hands began to tremble, I understood. I was never part of the plan. I was never truly invited. I was just the fool who had handed over $11,000 3 months ago when Michael had asked for it, supposedly for this very occasion. Kate finally turned, her eyes sweeping over me with that familiar, icy disdain she reserved for moments when she wanted to inflict maximum pain. This is a place for people with class, Eleanor. We can't show up with you dressed like that. What are the important people there going to think? My throat tightened. Words caught somewhere deep inside. I looked at Michael, desperately searching for a flicker of support, a word of defense. Anything to tell me he disagreed with this cruelty. But he merely smoothed his hair, as if this conversation were an inconvenient background noise. Michael, my voice emerged, weak and broken. I thought we were all going. You told me it was a family celebration, he sighed, a sound heavy with annoyance, as if I were a minor obstacle to be cleared before their grand departure. Mom, we already talked about this. The restaurant has a very strict dress code. You don't have the appropriate clothes for that kind of place. But I can change. I can put on something else, I pleaded, my voice rising slightly. It's not just about the clothes, Kate interjected, snatching her designer clutch from the sofa. It's about knowing how to behave, knowing which fork to use, knowing what to talk about with high society people. You just don't fit into that environment, and honestly, we don't want to be embarrassed tonight. The words struck me like stones, each one heavier than the last. Poor people, you don't fit in, embarrassed. Everything I had ever been to them, every sacrifice, every act of love, was reduced to this. I was an embarrassment they needed to hide. But that money, I stammered. The money you asked me for, Michael, that money was for this dinner, wasn't it? My son finally met my gaze. There was discomfort there. Yes, but beneath it, something far more chilling, indifference. Yes, Mom, and we appreciate it. That's why we're explaining this to you ahead of time. We don't want you to look ridiculous getting ready for nothing. Kate stepped closer, her expensive perfume, the same one I'd bought her for Christmas, filling my nostrils. Look, Eleanor, I know this might sound harsh, but it's the truth. Tonight is important for us, for our image, for our future, and we need everything to go perfectly. No surprises, no uncomfortable situations. Uncomfortable situations? I repeated, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. I am an uncomfortable situation. Don't take it personally. Michael was already at the door, car keys jingling. It's just for this one time. There will be other opportunities. But I knew it was a lie. I knew there wouldn't be other opportunities. This wasn't just for this one time. This was what they truly thought of me. This was what I represented to them. A nuisance, a burden, someone who needed to remain hidden. Kate walked past me without a glance, her voice dismissive. There's food in the fridge. Don't stay up waiting for us. We'll be late. She paused at the door, turning back. Oh, and please don't tell anyone about this. We don't want people thinking weird things about us. The door clicked shut, the sound echoing through the suddenly vast and empty house. I stood there, apron still on, hands still trembling, the reality of what had just happened slowly sinking in. The house fell silent, a dense quiet where I could hear my own ragged breathing, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, the creaking of old floorboards. Every sound amplified my loneliness. I walked slowly to the living room window. Outside, I watched their car drive away, taillights disappearing into the night, taking my son, taking my money, taking my dignity. My name is Eleanor Davis. I am 65 years old. For 40 years, I cleaned other people's houses, scrubbing floors, polishing silver, doing whatever it took to give my son a better life. I worked until my hands were calloused and my knees ached. I sacrificed everything. My dreams, my youth, my health. Also, Michael could go to college, wear nice clothes, and never lack for anything. And now, I was here, alone in my own home, excluded from my own family, treated like trash by the very people who had everything thanks to me. I sank onto the sofa, the same sofa where Michael used to fall asleep as a boy, where I read him bedtime stories, where I spent countless nights sewing his clothes so he would look presentable at school. It all felt so distant now, like another life, another Eleanor, an Eleanor who still believed that a mother's love was enough. Tears began to fall, silent and heavy, tracing paths down my wrinkled cheeks. I cried for the woman I had been, for the mother who gave everything without asking for anything, for the grandmother who hadn't even been considered. I cried for every sacrifice that now seemed utterly worthless. But as the pain ripped through my chest, something else began to stir within me. Something small, something that had been dormant for too long. A spark of rage. Not the kind of rage that screams or breaks things, but a cold, calculating rage. The rage that thinks, the rage that remembers. Because this hadn't been the first time. This wasn't the first humiliation. It was just the most direct, the cruelest, the most obvious. But there had been others. So many others. Small exclusions I had justified, tiny lies I had believed, minor slights I had ignored. As night fully enveloped my empty house, and silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, I knew something had irrevocably changed. Something had broken inside me, and I wasn't sure I wanted to fix it. I sat on that sofa for hours, losing all track of time. The house was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the street lamp outside. I didn't move, didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there, tears drying on my cheeks, as my mind began to replay things I had pushed away for too long. The first time Kate made me feel truly invisible was 2 years ago, on Michael's birthday. I had baked his favorite cake, the red velvet with cream cheese frosting I'd made for him since he was a child. I'd woken at 5 a.m. to make it perfect. When I arrived at their house, cake in hand, Kate opened the door with that fake smile I knew so well. "Oh, Eleanor, you shouldn't have bothered." She took the cake from my hands without inviting me in. "We already ordered a cake from the French bakery downtown. You know, something a bit more sophisticated." I remember the sting, the feeling of my carefully crafted cake being relegated to an afterthought, a clumsy, unsophisticated effort. I remember Michael appearing, giving me a quick hug, and then disappearing back inside, leaving me on the porch, holding an empty cake carrier, the door closing softly behind him. Then there was the time I offered to babysit my granddaughter Lily, so they could have a night out. Kate had laughed, a brittle, dismissive sound. "Oh, Eleanor, no offense, but Lily is used to a certain routine, and honestly, we prefer her to be with someone who understands her dietary restrictions and educational play. We have a professional nanny for that." The unspoken message was clear. I wasn't good enough, not even for my own grandchild. And the money, there was always the money. Small requests at first, then larger ones. A new car for Michael, a down payment for their house, expensive vacations. Each time, he'd promised to pay me back, and each time, I'd believe him. I'd dip into my meager savings, the money I'd painstakingly accumulated for my own retirement, because he was my son, and mothers help their children. But the biggest betrayal, the one that truly shattered me, was yet to come. It wasn't just the $11,000 for the dinner. It was the house. My house, the small, humble home I had worked my entire life to pay off, my only true asset. A few weeks after the dinner incident, a letter arrived from a lawyer's office. It was addressed to me, but the contents were about a property loan, a significant amount, secured against my house. My signature was on the documents, but it wasn't my signature. Panic seized me. I called Michael immediately. He stammered, made excuses, tried to brush it off as a misunderstanding. But the lawyer, a kind man named Mr. Thompson, was insistent. He explained that my late husband, Robert, had left instructions for him to contact me because he knew what Michael had done. He knew it was fraud. Michael raised his head sharply, his eyes red. "Mr. Thompson came here. What did he tell you?" "He told me the truth," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Something you have never done." I got up from the sofa, pacing like a caged animal. "Mr. Thompson doesn't know anything. He just wants to cause trouble. Robert and I had an agreement. A private agreement. An agreement that included using my property without my consent." I picked up the documents from the table. "Here is everything. 3 loans, $85,000, my signature on each one. A signature I never wrote. I was going to tell you, I swear. But everything happened so fast, and then things didn't go as expected. The market crashed, the investments were lost. And when I wanted to fix it, it was already too late." "When, Michael? When were you going to tell me?" "When they came to take my house. When they left me on the street." "I never would have allowed that," he shouted, but his voice sounded desperate, not convincing. "I would have found a way to pay it. I always find a way. Like you found a way to pay me the $11,000 I lent you. Like you found a way to include me in the dinner last night that I paid for myself." He fell silent, his eyes avoiding mine. "Did you think it wouldn't hurt me, Michael? Did you think you could use me, lie to me, steal from me, and I would just accept it because I'm your mother? I didn't steal from you. I just borrowed. It's different. It's different. It is theft. It is fraud. It is betrayal." Tears began to stream down my cheeks again. "I gave you everything. Everything I had, everything I was. And you paid me back by destroying me. Don't be dramatic, Mom. No one is destroying you." Those words were like a slap. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. "You're right. No one is destroying me because I'm not going to allow it anymore." I got up from the sofa, walked to the kitchen, and pulled out the drawer where I kept all my important documents. I came back with another folder and placed it on the table next to Mr. Thompson's papers. "What is that?" Michael asked suspiciously. "It's everything. Every loan I gave you, every promise you made me, every lie you told me. I opened the folder. $11,000 in the last 5 years. Money you never paid back. Money you asked for emergencies that never existed. Michael stared at the papers, speechless. And here are the bank statements, the transfers, all documented, all with date and time. I pulled out more papers. I also have the messages, the conversations where you promised to pay me back, the excuses, the lies. What do you intend to do with that? His voice was barely a whisper. I intend to protect myself. I intend to ensure you can never hurt me again. He stepped closer, his expression shifting. He was no longer the ashamed son. He was the calculating man, the manipulator. Mom, think about what you're doing. If you make this public, if you report me, you'll ruin my life, my reputation, my marriage. Your reputation is a lie. Your marriage is built on the money you stole from me. And your life is already ruined. You just don't know it yet. And what about you? He countered, trying to wound me. If this comes to light, everyone will know your own son scammed you. How do you think they'll see you? Do you think you'll have any dignity? His words sought to make me feel small, but they didn't work anymore. My dignity doesn't depend on what others think. It depends on what I do now. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Thompson. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Thompson, this is Eleanor Davis. I accept your help. I want to proceed with everything. Michael went pale. Mom. No, please, we can fix this between us. We don't need lawyers. Mr. Thompson, my son is here. You can come now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up. Mike looked at me with a mixture of fear and rage. This is a mistake, Mom. A mistake you're going to regret. The only mistake I made was trusting you. It was believing that a mother's love was enough. It was thinking that if I gave you everything, you would love me. I do love you. You don't love me. You use me. There is a difference. He slumped onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands. What's going to happen now? Now you are going to face the consequences of your actions. You are going to sign documents acknowledging the fraud. You are going to pay back every cent. And you are going to stop lying. I don't have that money. I can't pay you. Then you will sell whatever you have to sell. The car, the things in the house, whatever is necessary. I picked up the documents from the table. And if you don't do it voluntarily, Mr. Thompson will make sure you do it legally. Kate is going to kill me. If we sell the car, if I pawn things, she is going to. Kate, I repeated the name with bitterness. She knows what you did, doesn't she? Michael didn't respond, but his silence was answer enough. She knew. She knew he was stealing from me. And she said nothing. Maybe she even encouraged him. Kate has nothing to do with this. Kate has everything to do with this. She convinced you that I was an embarrassment. That I didn't deserve respect. That I was just a source of money you could exploit. It's not like that, no? Then explain to me why last night I was told I couldn't go to a dinner I paid for myself. Explain to me why I was treated like trash, as if I were worth nothing. Michael stayed quiet, looking at the floor, defeated. The doorbell rang. It was Mr. Thompson. I opened the door and he entered, briefcase in hand. He looked at Michael, then at me. Mrs. Davis, are you sure about this? Completely sure. Mr. Thompson took documents out of his briefcase. The next few hours were a blur of legal terms, signatures, and Michael's increasingly desperate pleas. By the time Mr. Thompson left, Michael had signed an acknowledgement of debt and a repayment plan. He was pale, his face etched with a mixture of fear and resentment. He left without another word, without looking at me. The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of loneliness, but a quiet, almost peaceful stillness. I had done it. I had finally stood up for myself. The next few months were difficult. Kate left Michael, unable to cope with the financial fallout and the public humiliation. Michael had to sell his expensive car and many of his belongings to start paying me back. He lost his job, his reputation in tatters. He was forced to move into a small rented apartment. I, on the other hand, felt a strange sense of liberation. With Mr. Thompson's help, I secured my house, making sure it could never be used as collateral again. I started taking classes at the community center, learning about financial planning, and even a little bit of gardening. I joined a book club. I started going for long walks in the park, something I hadn't done in years. One afternoon, I was having tea with my friend Sonia, a woman I'd met at the community center. She was a few years younger than me, but we shared a similar journey of rediscovering ourselves after years of putting others first. My daughter hates me now for telling Michael about the divorce, Sonia said, her hands trembling slightly as she held her teacup. She says I betrayed her. She paused, then looked at me, her eyes firm. But I don't regret it. I did the right thing. Children don't always understand when we act for their own good. Sometimes they never understand. And you? She's asked. Do you regret reporting Michael? I thought about it, truly thought about it. No, I finally said. I don't regret it. Because if I hadn't done it, he would still be the same man, the same liar, the same manipulator. Now he has the chance to be better, to be real. This morning, While making coffee for Michael's visit, I found an old photo in one of the drawers. It was from 30 years ago. I was 35, Michael a 5-year-old boy. We were at the park, smiling. He was hugging me with those little arms, and I was looking at him as if he were my whole world. And he was, for so long. He was my whole world, my reason to get up every day, my reason to work until my bones ached, my reason to exist. But that was my mistake. Because a person cannot be your entire world, you have to be your own world. And others are visitors. Some stay, others leave, but you remain. I put the photo back in the drawer, not with sadness but with acceptance. That boy in the photo no longer exists. And the woman holding him doesn't either. We both had to die a little to become who we are now. The doorbell rang. It was Michael, punctual as always now. He brought coffee and donuts and something else. A bouquet of flowers for you, Mom. Because it's Sunday, and because I love you. I took the flowers and smelled them. White roses, my favorites, he remembered. We sat in the kitchen. We talked about his week, about my week, about the plans each of us had. There were no more secrets, no more lies. Just honest conversation between two people who were learning to know each other again. Before leaving, he hugged me. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for giving me this second chance. Thank you for finally seeing me, I replied, for finally valuing me. I watched him drive away in his used car and I smiled. He wasn't the perfect son, he probably never would be. But he was a son who was trying, and that was enough. That night I sat on my porch as I had done so many times in these past months, looking at the stars, feeling the peace that only comes after the storm. My life wasn't perfect. There were still difficult days, still moments of sadness. But there was also joy, there was friendship, there was dignity, there was self-love. I thought about all the women like me. Women who give everything without asking for anything. Women who let themselves be trampled because they think that is love. Women who lose their identity in the process of being mothers. And I wanted to tell them something. Something I would have liked to hear years ago. Your sacrifice is valid, but it doesn't have to be total. Your love is important, but not at the cost of your dignity. Your children are your treasure, but you also have value. And if someone makes you feel invisible, if someone treats you with contempt, if someone uses you without gratitude, you have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to say enough. You have the right to demand respect. Because true love does not humiliate. True love does not exclude. True love does not shame. And if what you receive does not look like love, then it is not love. It is something else. And you deserve better. I got up from the porch and went inside my house. My house safe, paid for, renovated, a reflection of what I myself was now. Renovated, stronger, clearer, more complete. Before going to bed, I looked in the mirror. I saw a 65-year-old woman with wrinkles that told stories. With gray hair that showed wisdom. With eyes that had cried but now shone with hope. And I liked what I saw. I was no longer the woman who begged for crumbs of attention. I was no longer the woman who accepted any treatment just to not be alone. I was the woman who knew her worth. The woman who demanded respect. The woman who chose peace over drama. The woman who had finally chosen herself. And that was everything. I lay in my bed, closed my eyes, and for the first time in many years I slept deeply, without nightmares. Without worries, just with the certainty that tomorrow would be another day, and that I would be okay. Because finally, after so much time, I had learned the most important lesson of all. No one can take away your dignity unless you let them, and I wasn't letting them anymore.